Right. Okay.
Good news. Good news. Good news.
And now we're also joined in the studio by the Conservative commentator Esther Krakue. Esther, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
No, pleasure to have you on the show. Partygate, the Krakue report. Esther, what do you make of all of this?
You know, as someone, I feel like I always have to give a caveat to this because people say, oh, you're a Tory and stuff like that. I am socially conservative and I tend to lean right of centre, but I'm not sort of beholden to any party, right? I've switched votes in my lifetime. I genuinely think if you want the best for your country, you listen to all sort of sides of the political aisle and you make a judgment call. I'm so deeply disappointed as someone who would naturally lean towards the values of the Conservative Party because this is just embarrassing, right? Imagine, and I think, I'm even more embarrassed for the MPs that are backing Boris because you realise you are putting your career and your credibility on the line for a clown. Right, the fish rots from the head. I don't think people understand how toxic this figure is for the Conservative Party. I genuinely don't think he should even lead the Tories into the next general election because what are you saying to this country that you spent money, as subsidies to these newspapers, trying to push an agenda to try and make the public cow in fear over a COVID agenda. You almost died, allegedly. You had this gas mask on. It was very dramatic and sort of very scary to see our Prime Minister in that state. But somehow the whole of Westminster, the people you were working with, were not terrified of this virus that almost killed you. And you had parties and, drinks every Friday at 4 o'clock. It's just absurd stuff, right? It's so disrespectful.
And so when you say conservative values that you believe in, for you, when you look at the Conservative Party and conservatism more generally in this country, what are those values and what is the difference here now?
They used to mean family and honour and ambition and drive and love of country and duty. Right, there used to be, values that actually even the left of this country in the 60s and 50s would say they agreed with. Right, we had our differences, but there was a certain pride in this country. There were certain values and standards. Community was very important, duty, ambition, drive, all of that. I saw Margaret Thatcher's statue in Grantham a week ago, and I just thought she would be turning in her grave if she knew what the current Conservative Party is. They were supposed to be the party of business, not anymore. They were supposed to be the party, of drive, of really just aspiration, and none of that exists. The sense of duty, none of it, right? The current Conservative Party, they're a confused mishmash of I don't know what, right? I've written about Rishi Sunak, and I don't think he's a Conservative. He's abandoned all fiscal discipline. He knew what was coming up with inflation and price hikes, and he's completely abandoned that. Boris, I mean, I don't think he was ever a Conservative, right? He famously used to say, I'm a one-nation Conservative, trying to follow in sort of the Israeli line of...
He says he's a classical liberal, and I think he's a libertine. But can I ask you, because there is a movement, especially you see this in America, so you have the old sort of conservative values, the rule of law, obviously being broken, and you have the free market. Now, you can see in American conservatism, in a way, the libertarian wing has gone and supported people like Trump, because they don't believe in government, they don't believe in small government, they believe in no government. Isn't there a split in the Conservative Party? In that there are some people, I know a lot of Conservative MPs are saying they support Johnson when behind their backs they don't, and there are more to come out. We were in Parliament a few days ago. But there are some who admire his lawlessness, that this is kind of zero government.
Rogue. But it's the complete opposite. This is the thing. This is why I said the Conservatives are a confused party, because he says one thing, but he does another, right? This is a party, where is the sort of freedom he's talking about? Where is the reduced size of government, right? This government makes Blair's government in the early 2000s look like an austerity party. It's incredible.
But the money doesn't go to benefit. It goes to vast amounts
exactly.
of big
all those
crony
PPC contracts that we don't know
where...
Exactly. And this is one of the things that, because I'm all about conversation and actually not feeling like just because you don't agree with someone politically, you have to ostracize them. I don't think that at all. I have friends and family that don't agree with me on anything. We don't really talk politics. But I love the fact that there are people of differing views. But the one common thing is there's a sense of integrity. There's a certain love of the country that you're even talking about. There's a certain desire to progress and move forward. And at the end of the day, I don't think 99% of people, mainstream politicians, political commentators, want people's lives to be worse. I genuinely have faith in people, and I give everyone the benefit of the doubt that they want this country to be better. And I think when stuff like this happens with the Conservative Party, when you have a clear liar, someone who doesn't respect this country, who doesn't respect the rule of law, you make it look like all people that would dare to vote Conservatives, all people that even lean a particular way are like that. And that's not the case at all. Most people are decent people that just want to see people's lives get better.
It's really interesting. I mean, I think it was Tamanjeet Singh Desi, who's a Labour MP, who stood up in Parliament when Sue Gray report was released, and he said Boris Johnson's always talking about patriotism and how important it is to, get behind your country and what it means, the monarchy means to Britain and what Britain stands for. But how is having a raucous party until the early hours in Downing Street during lockdown on the eve of Prince Philip's funeral? How is that patriotic?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's interesting how the Tories use these cultural war issues, and their whole thing is we love Britain. But you saying that you're seeing through that?
Yeah, but they clearly don't love Britain, right? Because they don't respect the people of Britain, right? They don't respect people who weren't able to go to funerals, who weren't able to go to weddings, who weren't able to see, sick relatives. The kind of sacrifices we've made in this country, and the people in Westminster that were shielded by their bubble of money and influence, that disconnect is so disrespectful. You can't possibly love your country, right? And I often say, I would say if the Labour government, if the Labour Party was stronger, if they had more inspiring figures, if they didn't have people that harped on about issues that are actually not important to the working class of this country, I would vote for them.
Such as, and then Nicola can come.
Well, identity politics crap.
Yeah, well,
what do you think, Nicola, about
I know where she's coming from on this, and we're always politically, we differ on politics. We agree on reality TV, though.
I know.
But
that it's terrible.
That it's awful, but we love watching it. But I think what actually happens is that it's Labour representatives who get given those questions.
Oh, the questions like about
what is how do you define a woman?
But even if that is the case, because I understand the baiting, right? Because you know what to expect.
Yeah.
Isn't it bad that they know what to expect from you? If they can bait you with those basic questions, I mean...
Isn't this classically like guns in America or religion? It's called a wedge issue, where actually, most people in the Southern strategy, you get working class white people to vote against their interests, which would probably be Democrats, over a cultural wedge issue. Yeah. And that's been tried to happen here. I mean, my question to you, with Partygate, there is a rump core, isn't there, who sort of, tiny number, who think, well, let him get away with it, it's good. But there is actually, unlike America, which is much bigger and more divided society, I say, there are these values being come around. The things you were saying, you'd agree about honour, integrity, duty, the ministerial code. You'd agree with them.
Yeah.
Regardless of party.
Of course, and he's just taken them away from the ministerial code. Yeah. And he's not agreed to be investigated without his permission. This is awful. This is a dictatorship. This is what we're edging towards now. And I just wonder if the Tory party as a whole are just waiting for that moment where they really need a scapegoat, and then Boris is going to go.
I think that's what's going to happen, because I say this, I knew, because I've criticised sort of lockdown policy, economic policy, I've criticised it from the beginning, because I could see this happening. I could see all the spending, someone had to pay it back, NI was going to go up, we were going to be hit with a bigger tax burden, inflation was going to increase. Rishi Sunak knew all of this, right? He knew. I wouldn't be surprised if inflation
to be fair, though, a lot of that is partly Brexit and a lot to do with energy prices and Russia. Is it COVID, which is creating some supply problems?
But it's a part of it, because I mean, if you kind of toe the line in this sort of global movement of locking down your economies and stuff like that, you do realise that there are effects of that. But besides the point, I saw all of this coming. But the Conservative government, I don't know, for some reason, has been hijacked by this idea that they have to be this middle-of-the-ground mishmash, a non-ideological party in any sense to try and get by. And I think that's part of their problem now.
But if you had to nail it down, what do you think it does now stand for? Under Johnson, what do the Conservatives stand for?
Nothing. The Conservatives, they're not pro-business because corporation tax is going up. They're not any sort of decent managing of the economy because, the fiscal discipline has gone out the window. Our debt I think it's now 93% of GDP or something, and just increasing.
What about free trade?
It doesn't exist anymore, really. It doesn't exist.
They're the party that protects Boris Johnson.
But that's it.
That's it. Rishi Sunak did arguably naff all in recent weeks about the cost of living crisis, and then, a £400 rebate that is for everybody.
Yeah, people with second homes.
And it's subsidy for the carbon.
But also, going back to the identity crap, arguably, whether, Labour may have a problem with that, but Esther, Conservatives are the party that weaponises the identity crap. Is that fair to say?
Well, no, they play it to their benefit because it's
so that's weaponising, isn't it?
It's easy, right? It's an easy thing to do. Yeah, exactly. It's an easy thing to do. And while I don't appreciate it, I feel like they do that because they know no matter how bad we get, we can't possibly elect a prime minister that doesn't know what half the country is. Right? That's literally
what they're trying to say.
That's what they're trying.
Do you think that Sir Keir Starmer doesn't know who half the country is? No, it sounds good.
The thing is, he doesn't because and I don't think again. These are issues I wish we didn't have to talk about. I wish the Labour Party hadn't been reduced to this because I know they're talented politicians within the Labour Party. I don't agree with Jess Phillips on many things.
And you think that is all it's reduced to?
But yes, it really has because there are a lot of white working class people in this country that don't feel any affiliation with the Labour Party. And
that's not over issues like transsexuality.
No, but it is though. It is.
Well, I think it's just a classic Conservative government gunning for the more vulnerable people in society and weaponising them in a war on politics. It's outrageous because as much as people like yourself, many commentators will say this is not an important issue. Why are we discussing this? They're the only ones discussing this. I guarantee you my trans friends would far prefer that the issue of trans identity.
Yes. But this is the thing, they're 0.6% of the population.
Exactly, so why are we so concerned?
No, but this is the thing, because you can even interact with them. But imagine a working class family in a northern town that's dying economically, that probably haven't even met a trans person, right?
They're reading about it in the press.
But the Labour Party is so stuck on these issues. How can you possibly feel connected? You're thinking, I haven't had a pay rise for 3 years.
I don't think they are stuck on these issues.
It is. But look, the thing is, and look, it might be really good baiting from the Conservative Party, fantastic strategically, but if that's all you're getting as a working class individual in this country, they're not talking about things that are important to you.
This goes back to the media, doesn't it? I'm not disagreeing with you. If the media, which covers this extensively, we know there are campaigns, the war against woke, Piers Morgan's Uncensored, exactly. But all the polls show, and you've written about this, haven't you? We've done research. People don't really care about that.
Yeah, well, they don't. But the thing is, when push comes to shove, because when you vote for someone, right, you have to have a certain level of confidence that they're not going to throw everything down the tube for this one issue, right? How confident are you that...
Compared with Boris Johnson, Keir Starmer, honestly.
No, I honestly,
okay,
but the thing, but it's not, I have more faith in actual talented politicians within the Conservative Party than Boris Johnson. I don't have any faith in him. I don't have any respect for him. It's not a Keir Starmer versus Boris issue for me. It's what the remaining of the Tory party, the decent Tory party, and what's happening in the Labour Party, which also has decent politicians, right? It's weighing up the sort of wider whole for me. I don't have respect for Boris. I don't see him leading this country past the end of this year. I hope not. But that's where we are.
One final thought, for just closing thoughts, is we achieved consensus and then we found the wedge issues. It's so great to have both of you in the studio and to talk about these things in a sort of amicable, inquisitive, rather than adversarial way. We're trying to understand each other, not sort of embarrass each other or do gotchas. Do you think political debate has to change? And there is a future way of discussing things which is less like sort of question time, like a worldwide
and
wrestling.
to the reality that you're talking about, there's a cost of living crisis.
Exactly.
I mean, it's shocking what is happening in this country in terms of day-to-day struggles.
For me, it's all in the strap lines. I'm sick to death. From back in the day when I was a women's rights campaigner, the question would be, is it okay, or are people sick of speaking about Partygate, rather than saying, people care about Partygate, what are we going to do about it? It's that political debates always become about something that's completely obvious. Is it sexist to say this? Well, yes, it is.
But it's also adversarial, isn't it?
We're going to have somebody on the far left and somebody on the far right who go at each other. And that, to me, that's pantomime politics. And that's what needs to change. Conversations like this, people who are diametrically opposed, who can reach a consensus and agree on things and see things from each other's point of view. Maybe that's a very lefty way of thinking.
But that's absolutely true. And I do think it's on the right as well, because I think there are fringes of the right that I find absolutely detestable. But I think that's not representative, right?
Yes.
Again, most people have people that disagree with them.
I
don't think I don't think I've met more than one completely deplorable individual of that's been ideologically possessed. These conversations are important. It's not supposed to be smack down or take this person down. It's interesting to have these conversations and debates, and they have to happen, because if not, people just don't engage with real issues.
And for me, if somebody is taking to Twitter or social media to take the mick out of people in vulnerable communities, trans people, they've immediately lost the argument and credibility for me, because that is an easy wedge issue that they know they're going to win support over. They know they're going to get the clicks and the chat. And for me, if you're taking down trans people on the internet and you've never even met and had a conversation with a trans person, you're irrelevant to the conversation.
So Hardeep writes brilliantly about issues of identity and the classic British tradition, which you can see in partition in India, and the violence of divide and rule.
Yeah.
Is that not what is going on here? Yeah. There's various forms of injustice. Yeah. People fight through gender, to economics, to race, but we're all being forced to compete. It's called sectarianism.
Yeah.
Precisely. It's divide and conquer. And they're going to use a demographic. There's actually 1% of the population are either trans, whether out or not, or non-binary. But they're going for that smallest percentage of people where it's unlikely that you might know somebody like that.
Yeah, or me one, yeah.
And so they're this mythical creature that threatens you. It used to be, well, and arguably still is, immigrants. And we're just changing the characterisation of the enemy. And that's all that's happening.
Yeah. But I think we're doing it to the point where we don't even recognise the country anymore, right? Because when did these issues become central to the identity of an entire nation?
But who
that's
makes
what worries
them center,
me.
Esther? Because I remember immigration as a final thought, wasn't it? It was low down on the agenda, well, sort of second or third from 2005 onwards, and then come Syria, the Putin's invasion, and the EU referendum, it went to the top. Now it's back down and people think immigration is a good thing. Are we not being played here? Yeah. That this is put in front of our mind?
It also depends on the party in government, right? Because we know that there are media establishments that are pro, the current party in power. Obviously, 2005, you wouldn't have heard as immigration being a massive issue because Blair was in power, right? So it wasn't in the nature, on the vein of the Labour Party at the time to make that the scapegoat, which you would understand given the sort of where they lean politically. And now that was the issue, especially with Brexit and all of that. So I completely get that, and I think it's to do with sort of what party and what media establishment is backing that party at that time, which I think is sad.
Well, we are going to continue with this very interesting, very open, non-adversarial conversation in our After Dark session. And Esther and Nicola and Otto English are going to join myself and Peter for that. So there is a way that you can join us for After Dark. You have to sign up, Byline TV Plus, become a member, and then you can put all of your questions to any of us and Otto, and also just continue the conversation. We can have conversations about how conversations take place, and it's been so great to have you both here.
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed it. There's lots that we can learn, and we want to keep doing conversations like this. So thank you very much, and thank you to you for watching. As we always say, please do help us to spread the word if you like Byline TV and Byline Times. We have a monthly print edition newspaper which funds all of our work on the newspaper. So if you do like it, head over to bylinetimes.com, snap yourself up a subscription, spread the word, and we're going to be back for After Dark. But for those of you who can't join us, we will have a special edition of Friday Night with Byline Times next week.
Indeed, we will. A Jubilee edition, 70 years of her glorious reign. We'll have a special party joined with some special guests, and we'll see you, those who are not joining us for After Dark, you sad people. We'll see you next week with that. Meanwhile, as Hardeep says, have a look at our front page, Frenemies of the People. Read things in Byline Times you won't read in any other paper. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you and goodbye.